Hello everybody, Gerone Wright here again, and once again you're joining me on my Gerone Wright YouTube channel here on YouTube. In this video, I'm going to make a very interesting video, which discusses through my paranormal experience and encounter, pretty much where dinosaurs came from and how dinosaurs came to be. And why they were able to grow so large and why they appeared as they did as the reptile creatures that they were, and being of such a mega stature, meaning large in size. As you can see, there's different variations of the dinosaur up here. Of course, cartoons. This is just an array. There's a dinosaur fossil there, very unique creature. And you see these different images. I'm going to scroll down before I click out. Okay? And, dinosaurs always seems to be a mystery to the most of us, to the masses. But it's my position that mankind actually evolved through this creature. And there are a select few of people that has the ability. There's a very interesting dinosaur there. That guy almost looks real there. But there's a select few of people that knew how we came to be and knew that we evolved through these creatures. And in having this knowledge, they were able to continue a process of which our ancestors began. And that was a genetic manipulation and genetic bridging and the altering of our being from these creatures through to current. And in what is happening today behind our backs and right up underneath our noses. Okay, I just want to give you an idea of what's going on with some of these dinosaurs here. To take you through the look. Have you ever wondered how these creatures got to be the way they are and where they came from, and then eventually where did they actually go? Through my paranormal experience and encounter, which connects me to this and links me to this, I can pretty much describe to you in a layman's sense of how it all occurred, where they came from, and how they got so large, and again where they went, and through what process that they went through, what metamorphic process that they went through, and to finally becoming what we are today. Yes, it's my position that we are these creatures that we actually see here. And our ancestors of Angkor Wat, our ancestors of ancient Egypt, and our ancient ancestors of the Maya and all these other cultures, and the Peruvians, through the Peruvian burial stones, which I'm telling you that they represents dinosaur eggs. The stones are a representation of the eggs, and the drawings on the stones are saying, hey, from the egg of the dinosaur came mankind, and this is what happened thereafter. They're showing the tools which represent genetic splicing with their axes and their knives, showing you that they were spliced over genes which actually were created by that creature. You should see some of my videos if you haven't seen them, folks. I have some very amazing videos out there. Okay. Let me tell you how this creature came to be, and enlighten you as to that higher sense of knowledge as well. Okay, where did these creatures come from? How did these creatures grow to be so enormous, and where are they at today? I want you to know that I get so upset when I hear of ancient alien theorists and theorists which are becoming very popular today. These people are talking about how aliens flew in, created such creatures, and then flew out again, and no more traces of them, nothing left behind. If that's the case, then these creatures would be talking. Well, we are talking, but I mean, these creatures would be around today, and so would the aliens. All right, and can be flying in and out at will. The next thing is that describes these, or where these creatures went, because there's radiation found in their bones, and their remains, their fossilized remains, and there are high levels of radiation that's actually being taken or extracted from the marrow of their bones, which are actually in museums or dug up on the sites there. And there's again, I'll put the arrow right here on this guy to give you an idea on what that, yeah. But I'm going to get right to it. So where do these guys get their enormous size, their enormous strength, and their staying power? First, I want to tell you that dinosaurs are supposedly came onto our world some as through the I guess the Mesozoic era, which began 245 million years ago and lasted 180 million years to 245 million years to 208 million years ago. So these creatures, the era of these creatures, the Mesozoic, okay, era, which began 245 million years ago, okay, and it lasted 184 million years to 245 to 208 million years ago. So these creatures existed that long ago, and scientists gives you, if you want to believe where our science is taking us at today, that it lasted for millions and millions of years, over 200, in the excess of 200 million years. It's my position that these creatures got their powers, their size, in the same way that these creatures, these mythical creatures through cartoons did. Okay, and this is you can see the site here. This is committed my favorite radiation induced superheroes. Okay, and on this website, it highlights superheroes such as the number one being the Incredible Hulk there, and you see that, and with David Banner, and discusses how he was exposed to gamma radiation, and he actually was able to change into the Hulk. Next in line, the next creature, and these are all Marvel comics, is the Daredevil. He actually has gotten some radioactive rods, which gave him his special powers, and allows him to move around in a way that. Then you have the Fantastic Four, okay, and again they rode through a radioactive cloud, which calls for their superpowers. Then here you have Dr. Manhattan, and again being exposed to the a field of an intrinsic field of experiment that actually calls for radiation contamination, and he got special powers. And Spider-Man got bit by the radioactive spider there, which calls for his radioactive powers. And then you have the Phoenix, okay, again a Marvel girl, and she was exposed to radiation. And then you have Negative Man, and him as well being exposed to I think it was a nuclear blast or something, again, which calls for his radioactive induced powers. So you have all of these comics back in the 60s, and okay, and by Stan Lee, I would imagine. He's our pioneer in these Marvel comics, and it's my position that these characters, such knowledge, and our interest in these mythical beings or these comic cartoon characters, it's my position that these images and portrayals are created based on a hidden knowledge, and therefore it caters to a sense of awareness that we already have, that it is instinctively in us. Why is it instinctively in us? Because our ancestors did in fact evolve through the elements of our planet in the same exact way. So these cartoons would cater to our instinctive nature automatically, and we would be drawn to them. But and then you have to go back to wonder how such cartoons, the imaginations of such cartoons could be created, and then back in 1960, and then be so successful. So I'm telling you that the answers lie in, you take the creator of such cartoons You look at their affiliations, the schools that they went, whether it was private schools. You look at the art school, well, the art schools, the education, whether it was private schools, meaning a Catholic, Christian, Roman type school, which I'm linking all of that as well too. Then you look at the affiliations with their church beliefs. Okay, look at the visitations, the people that they were inspired by. A lot of this stuff is rooted to ancient rooted religion and ancient rooted artwork, meaning Renaissance era. You look at the affiliations of the people that created this, and you'll find your answers. You'll find that everything that I'm discussing with you is interlinking. It's like pieces of the puzzle coming together. However, let me go to how it's my position that these creatures here got the way they are through a natural radioactive induced chemistry, which began with our planet and calls for these creatures to grow to such an enormous size. So I take you now to our planet. And by the way, people, these creatures, again, the fossilized remains of these creatures, large amounts of radioactive substances are found in their fossilized remains, which actually supports my position. Now, let's go to the core of our planet. And we're there. Okay. Whoa, the core of our planet. The core of our planet, and you see different scenarios of it here. Okay, and we're obviously at the crust. It's my position that the inner core, some 200 some million years ago, or 250, you're talking about a quarter of a billion years ago. Our planet is anywhere from 4.5 billion years old to 4 billion years old, depending on who you ask. And so we're talking about roughly a quarter of that. Our ancient dinosaurs existed on our planet. So if this is the scenario, if this is the case, then these creatures, the dinosaurs, then this is very new information, people, that nobody has never discussed before. And only through my paranormal experience and encounter that I can dimensionally take my mind and place myself in the era of our ancient ancestral dinosaur. So in a quarter of that time that our planet was being created, these dinosaurs existed on our planet. No one never has actually addressed that before. Now, when we think of the image of the dinosaur, well, hold on before I go to that. Now imagine the center of our Earth's planet is a nuclear reactor. So therefore it gives off nuclear-like radioactive emissions. So as this core is sending its radioactive emitted matter back onto outer surfaces away from itself, because it can't all be contained, so that means that it creates emitted matter. The emitted matter is in the form of volcanic matter, which gives off gases, solid form, and it actually makes its way into the surface. However, but let's go back further before there were surfaces. Most of our world, so let's look at this as just being all ocean, which would be the case. Most of our world would have been more so ocean back then, because the lands that were formed because of emitted matter from off of the Earth's core. So therefore, this emitted matter would have been actually sent into underwater volcanic systems, where all creatures of our world evolved from. Our planet at one point before our Earth created the land masses on top would have been a water world. I consider our world to be a fish tank. So prior to the core sending up enough volcanic mass before it pushed up through the top and started making lands or islands, this emitted matter was into the ocean. So now we have radioactive waterways that these creatures were able to thrive in. You have a gamma-like situation that created hawking creatures. Creatures of our world, microorganisms that were able to grow with runaway growth and a runaway evolutionary scenario, because it was directly linked to the main power source of our planet, the inner core. These creatures of our earlier times had a direct cycle link, a life cycle, tied in directly with our planet's core pretty much. And it calls for their growth to run away kind of sort of. Even in fact, when these creatures evolved onto these little islands, let's look at this as just a little island, not a big island, a little island. Our image of these creatures being on these islands were with volcanoes. Look at all of our ancient ideas and movies of all of that. It was with these islands had live and active volcanoes on them because they were new, they were baby. Everything that was preformed, these islands were done so because of matter that was emitted from underneath the oceanic properties and made their way to the top. So as it was still being exhausted through the cones of the volcano, the same nuclear-like waste, the radioactive material and substances, were still not only beneath the planet's waterways, but it became on top as well too on these little islands, because now you have a smoking gun, which was the volcano. So it's creating still this radioactive chemistry for these creatures to evolve in the way that they did. It's my position that once this process simmered down, so to speak, where the chemistry of our core, of our planet, which we don't have much of it going on today, people, look at this now. It was rampant back then, 250 to 260 to 300 million years ago, because the activity was greater then. And this is why these creatures were allowed to thrive in the way that they did in the enormous size that they were. It's my position that these chemistries is what actually sustain the enormity of what we see in our whale bodies today, our sharks and creatures of the deep, the large octopuses and other creatures that actually survive around these emitted matters, because these waterways are contaminated with the volcanic matter from the Earth's inner core, which contain radioactive substances. Okay, let me keep going. I have a few images that I want to pull up. Pictures. Okay. The first image that I'm pulling up, in fact, can you see that pretty clearly? I'm going to bring it up larger, I guess, and then pause it. Can we pause? This here is exactly the scenario that I'm telling you about, people. This is a volcanic eruption from underneath the ocean. It's my position back then, as our planet burnt through layers of itself at its core. It's not unreasonable to think about a scenario where those elements and those substances that our planet was burning through in this earlier on period, while it was actually forming these land masses, would have been creating plumes within our oceans, above our ocean's floor, which later calls for the islands to be created, and also through volcanoes that were created, that calls for a radioactive chemistry which supported and sustained the enormity of our dinosaurs in size. Not just the dinosaurs per se, which eventually evolved from out of our oceans, but also onto our lands, and it sustains the life forms of what our creatures are today that are of such size. It's my position that when this chemistry began to fizzle out, then that is what actually brought about the extinction process. We got to go to next. Here's it. Here's a underwater. I believe this is an underwater volcanic system there. Look at this. This chemistry underneath water. Imagine nothing today as we know it, and everything is in. This is our world is just an ocean, and you have these hot spots like this boiling over underneath the world seas. Every 500 or 600 miles, maybe a little bit more, but for the most part, enough of this going on to contaminate every portion of our oceans in its entirety. Now, you take microorganisms that are being created at the same time or within on the planet, they get a dose of this, and then you have that same scenario which we have with I just showed you about with the Marvel comics. You have superheroes. In this case, you have super microorganisms which were allowed to grow in such a size and such an enormity that it would be imaginable to what our idea is today of that of our ancient dinosaur. All right, I'm going to go to another one. I don't want to mess this up. Let's go to next. Another volcano. A volcanic eruption, people. I believe that this one is above water. I don't think that this is under. And again, imagine this carrying from the core of the planet, depending on which element that our core is burning through of itself. Imagine the chemistry going off at the core, to where it actually is burning through one of its layers around that core, one of those layers, and is containing a high level of radioactive material, which is now being emitted. Now, remind you that these creatures, our dinosaurs, didn't have many places to choose from on land, because we're talking about almost 300 million years ago, people. So each place that the creatures that evolved onto land from our oceans, if they chose a place to so live or be or inhabit, it would actually have a volcano on it, because of the matter that, for the simple fact that these islands are freshly formed. So each and every island of our world at that point would have had one of these guys on it. So they had to actually go ahead and say on that. Let me see what's going on here. Do you see what I'm saying, people? So imagine our dinosaurs freshly evolving, crawling onto land from the seas. They're evolving onto the surfaces of our world based on this new chemistry now of these volcanic sprouts popping up to create islands. And now these, not only are they exposed to this nuclear-like radioactive chemistry in the water, they're evolving onto islands which has the same scenario. Next, again, a volcanic chemistry. Let me see if I can get you something next. Okay, these are the creatures. And next, and there's a picture of our core again. Let me leave it there for a minute. I'm gonna stop it there. And again, people, imagine with me. We don't know what's at our core. We just have an idea this is what it actually is. But we do know, and here's the crust of the core. We do know that this core is of a almost like a nuclear radioactive engine, similar. So therefore, it's creating emitted matter, waste matter, which is actually breaking away from itself and making its way to the surface. As it breaks through different elements of itself, of this of his outer mantle and crust is burning through areas that cause for different chemical reactions and meltdowns, which create radioactive substances, which end up in our world's oceans and emitted into our world's air through volcanic activity. So, again, we take 300 million years ago, when life of the dinosaurs, so we say nobody was there. We can't. It could be even longer ago. It could be 500 million years ago. Okay, because they're only covering about when the dinosaur existed. They're not talking about the process and the evolution of the dinosaurs evolving from the microorganisms of the creatures that they were and on to becoming that. So we're talking about not just the 240 or 250 million years ago that they first appeared on our planet, but we have to give it to them from before then, because they evolved on. So we got to give them at least another 500 million years before that. So we're talking in the excess of anywhere from, and this is just bringing to you a logical standpoint. We're talking about 250 plus million years, plus another 250 plus the 300 or 400 million years of them evolving into that enormous of a creature that they became. So we're talking in the excess of close to what? Wow, people. I mean, we're talking about at least in proximity to almost 10. Maybe, I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. You add up to that, you're talking about at least 100 million, maybe longer. You're talking some time here, people. You're talking it could go back as far. I'm telling you right now, it can go back as far as about anywhere from, just to guess, people, 90 million, maybe longer, even back further than that. On top of everything that they're talking. So you're talking, people, in the excess. If you add everything onto that, you're talking at least easily, in my mind, 500 million years. 500 million years, 700 million years, 900 million years ago, that these creatures, when they existed in our ocean waters and before they evolved onto land, that was created by the same nuclear waste chemistry. Because this is a nuclear waste that was emitted into our oceans. Imagine a nuclear reactor set into, not even in a large body of water, let's say in a river in your town. We all know what devastation that creates, right? Or we heard of contaminated waters behind nuclear reactors that happened in China, and they were rushing to try to fix that. They didn't know what was going on. Now, imagine the nuclear reactor in our planet. And it is on a continuing basis, on a continuing cycle, dumping nuclear waste materials in the form of radioactive energy into our oceans and into our atmospheric areas in our world for us to breathe. Now, to take that scenario when the planet was more livelier, more active in this process, was more active, and go back to the days of our dinosaurs, when you had land masses being formed, volcanoes were everywhere on each and every island. These creatures evolved from out of a radioactive, contaminated ocean onto radioactive contaminated islands And you have these I wouldn't say superhero, but you have these supersized creatures based on their exposure to being almost one with this planet's core. Just like Superman with kryptonite. This was the kryptonite for all of the creatures of our world, those dinosaurs. I want to bring up, let me see if I have any more pictures before I exit out. And then I'm gonna, I know I have to have more. That's primary. Let me get that down from there. Exit. I don't want to screw this up with that. I got a good video going here. So let me see what's going on here. What else do I have? Okay, here's that matter here. And what do we have here? What do we have? What do we have? What do I see? What do I see? Look at this, people. There you go. I'm going to leave that one up for a minute. Look at this. What in the hell do you think radioactive was coming out of that back with, I say, more than 250 million years ago? Let's say 900 million years ago. Because that creature had to evolve out of our oceans first. So they didn't count the chemistry. They're just talking about these dinosaurs appearing on land, or they existed on our lands about 250 million years ago. How about the other 250 to 400 million years it took for them to evolve out of this mess onto land? Which brings dinosaurs right in the heart of our Earth. Not only creating this radioactive mess in our oceans, but also the little islands that began to form on top of them through the volcanic material, because this is what forms the volcanic, these islands, people. They create the cones and the islands are formed. So these creatures, when it was safe for them to evolve onto land, they did so, but yet they were still subjected to the emissions, the radioactive emissions of this, which caused for them to grow and to be big. And people today, in their bones, in practically every dinosaur remains, fossilized remains that's found today, there is traces of radioactive material and substances. And that, people, I'm going to end this video with, this is why we have creatures. This is the hawk. But this is the reason why we have creatures that grew to such enormous size and in enormous proportions, because they were exposed to nuclear waste materials, i.e. radioactive chemistry, that calls for their cells and their bodies, from microorganisms to forthwith to what we actually came to today, to look like creatures that is based on this fantasy here. So what happened? Well, it's elementary. Why isn't it going on today? Why isn't it going on today? And I'm going to tell you why when I close this video up, because I don't need to go on no further than this, because I made my point. And we're going to pause it there for a minute. You know what happened to them, to the dinosaurs? They became extinct because of the fact that this process leveled off. It peaked and then it leveled off. The dinosaurs existed in the full swing of volcanoes going off, erupting everywhere across our planet, our globe, everywhere that you could imagine. They were in the midst of this. They enjoyed a radioactive environment. A radioactive Earth is what calls for the existence of these creatures. A radioactive Earth which calls for these creatures to mutate, not just the creatures, but the plants, everything, to grow in such a way that is unimaginable. My name is Gerone Wright, and I'm going to end this video there and leave that thought with you. Thank you for watching my channel. And again, I have no end. Through my paranormal experience and encounter, I tell you that it only gets better. There's some of those guys right there. So the next time you look at these creatures, tell me that doesn't it make sense that those creatures became who they are because of the same chemistry that this fantasy man here was created, the Incredible Hulk, and other Marvel comics? Now, people, how can I have 200 plus videos here, going up to 250. How can I claim to have a higher sense of awareness and knowledge through my multidimensional sense of being and through an encounter, and bring you such amazing videos on a layman's sense? And they are so logical and so practical. And here you have some of our best paid scientists in our world, some of our best minds in our world. And I say this, I mean, people that are being paid from tax dollars. And no one has brought that to you. And not even in the wake of seeing cartoons and things like this. But you know why I make the connection? Because I envision what my ancestors went through. My ancestors were that of the dinosaurs. What they experienced, I experienced, because me being who I am and the information is contained there in my body, I can tap into that information, and then once I do so, all I do is go out and find the likely scenarios, the volcanoes, the volcanoes erupting underneath the water, the volcanoes erupting on top of the land. Bring you the imagination of these islands being formed, these creatures evolving out of the ocean through an element of radioactivity, and then onto these islands being created, which is it's happening right now in Hawaii. The same exact scenarios from which in time and in a time where these creatures existed. It's the same exact thing. It's the same exact thing where these creatures are existing. The same exact thing at a time where there was a high level of I can't say volcanism, where there was a high level of volcanic activity on our world, all at one time. These creatures were created and were allowed to get so big through the activity from off the Earth's core, where they draw on their energies. So the idea and the concept behind this is what the same concept and the idea and the reality behind our dinosaurs being created. And when that chemistry died out, fizzled out, when the activity became lessened than what it was, the dinosaurs were no longer able to, their body and their masses, their fuel, based on the emissions of this, were no longer able to survive. So what they did is they morphed and they mutated into other beings and other creatures, which resulted subsequently in becoming who we are today. And people like Stan Lee and other people that has this higher sense of a knowledge, they can take it and sell it back to you in the form of fantasy, when reality is that everything that has happened is actual reality. People, you're going to like this video, because you know why? I can touch base on reality in a way that no one possibly ever can. You know why? Because I am paranormally linked to our ancestors. And just like people like Stan Lee can cater to you with the Hulk, religion and all of that. You're drawn to things and don't know what it is. People, I can bring this to you and explain it to you, and you like this far more. You know why? Because I know what it is that calls for our existence and make us function. I'm out of here. My name is Gerone Wright. You can catch me on Alien UFOs, Dreams and Experience forums. My title there is on I Am an Alien and So Are You. Or you can catch me here on my YouTube channel. And just Google, or either you can just Google my name, Gerone Wright. That's Gerone Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T. And people, I can do any type of video that I possibly so desire because I am linked to everything. Thank you. I appreciate you for tuning in with me. Hello everybody, Gerone Wright here again, and once again you're joining me on my Gerone Wright YouTube channel here on YouTube. In this video, I'm going to make a very interesting video, which discusses through my paranormal experience and encounter, pretty much where dinosaurs came from and how dinosaurs came to be, and why they were able to grow so large and why they appeared as they did as the reptile creatures that they were, and being of such a mega stature, meaning large in size. As you can see, there's different variations of the dinosaur up here, of course, cartoons. This is just on the right. There's a dinosaur fossil there, very unique creature. You should see some of my videos if you haven't seen them, folks. I have some very amazing videos out there. Okay, let me tell you how this creature came to be, and enlighten you as to that higher sense of knowledge as well. Okay, where did these creatures come from? How did these creatures grow to be so enormous, and where are they at today? I want you to know that I get so upset when I hear of ancient alien theorists and theorists, which are becoming very popular today. These people are talking about how aliens flew in, created such creatures, and then flew out again, and no more traces of them, nothing left behind. If that's the case, then these creatures would be talking. Well, we are talking, but I mean, these creatures would be around today. And so with these creatures through to current, and in what is happening today behind our backs and right up underneath our noses. Okay, I just want to give you an idea of what's going on with some of these dinosaurs here. To take you through the look. Have you ever wondered how these creatures got to be the way they are, and where they came from, and then eventually where did they actually go? Through my paranormal experience and encounter, which connects me to this and links me to this, I can pretty much describe to you in a layman's sense of how it all occurred, where they came from, and how they got so large, and again where they went, and through what process that they went through, what metamorphic process that they went through, and to finally becoming what we are today. Yes, it's my position that we are these creatures that we actually see here, and our ancestors of Angkor Wat, our ancestors of ancient Egypt, and our ancient ancestors of the Maya and all these other cultures, and the Peruvians through the Peruvia burial stones, which I'm telling you that they represents dinosaur eggs. The stones are a representation of the eggs, and the drawings on the stones are saying, hey, from the egg of the dinosaur came mankind, and this is what happened thereafter. They're showing the tools which represent genetic splicing with their axes and their knives, showing you that they were spliced over genes which actually were created by that creature. And you see these different images. I'm going to scroll down before I click out. Okay, and you know, dinosaurs always seems to be a mystery to the most of us, to the masses. But it's my position that mankind actually evolved through this creature, and there are a select few of people that has the ability. There's a very interesting dinosaur there. That guy almost looks real there. But there's a select few of people that knew how we came to be and knew that we evolved through these creatures. And in having this knowledge, they were able to continue a process of which our ancestors began, and that was a genetic manipulation and genetic bridging and the altering of our being from